Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to Fun Day Monday. That's right. Man, I don't know where the weekend went, but here we are ready to go, diving into it. We got lots of great stuff to talk about today. But before we get to the pain, before we get, there's always going to be politics to talk about and other things and monies and, all that. I thought today we'd do something a little bit more fun and frivolous, which is sometimes a little bit of nonsense now and then is relished by the wisest men, right? I mean, that's what we want. We want a little bit of laughter. And we want some fun stuff. I had a chance this weekend to take my son over to the Porcupine Theater down here in Homer, and we got a chance to watch the original Star Wars trilogy marathon. And the Porcupine is an amazing facility, which if you haven't stopped by yet, you should go by there and enjoy it because it's a great little venue. Not only do they do movies, but they also do some live stuff. And this week, we got some special things happening. Rubber Ptarmigan is coming down to the 33rd annual Ketchimak Bay Shorebird Festival, and they're coming in to make us laugh. So we've got Caitlin Owens, Ben Peterson, Ida Taylor, Jake Armstrong. They are a troupe of entertainers who are going to come in and just showcase some serious stand-up comedy and some fun stuff. Now they're all going to help the community as well. Not only is it here to celebrate the Shorebird Festival, which kicks off here this week, but also all the beer and wine sales for the evening are going to go directly to the Homer Senior. Wow, talking is hard. The Homer Senior Center. And we're going to come in and enjoy it as well. But I wanted to get a little bit of details and some history of what's going on here. I love me some local comedy. When I was up in Fairbanks, of course, working with the stations up there, Glenn Anderson and Jerry Evans, were always doing comedy showcases, and I even took one of their classes one year just to try and be more funny. It didn't really work out, but we'll see how it goes here. This morning, we're going to be joined by a couple members of the Rubber Ptarmigans. We've got Jake Armstrong and Ben Peterson. They are waiting in the wings. So without further ado, let's jump on over there and bring them on the program and see what they have to say this morning. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you guys doing this morning?
I'm good.
Hey, Michael.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
All right.
Sorry. I'm very tired today.
Very tired. Jake's like, "Are you sure we have to do this at 6:00 in the morning?" And I'm like, "Come on, Buttercup, let's go. We're gonna get it done. It's gonna be fun. You'll enjoy it." So let's get started here and get a little bit of history first and foremost. We'll start off with Ben. Ben, can you tell us a little bit about the Rubber Ptarmigan and what you guys are all about and what this looks like here?
Yeah. So Rubber Ptarmigan, we started along with Ida Taylor back in 2021. And the situation then was Jake and I had started doing comedy in the Anchorage scene in 2018, 2019, around that time. Ida had been doing it for a few years before that. And around that time, there was somewhat of a scene that was in existence, but it was kind of going through like a waning phase because a lot of the comics that had been practicing and doing shows in the area for up to about 10 years, they were starting families and sort of like moving away from comedy as a hobby. And then the pandemic hit and it really kind of like decimated whatever was left of the scene at that time. And so coming out of the pandemic, we as young, hungry comics, we were like, how do we get stage time and attention again? Not really. We were like, how do we get the scene, started again? How do we kickstart it again? And we were, we noticed that a lot of comics, the comics who were still like around and wanting to do shows, and then newer people who were feeling drawn to comedy out of the pandemic, people who wanted to like change something about their lives and really dive into something they had been excited about for a while. Everybody was just kind of waiting for opportunities to come up and shows to start again. And I think it was much more Jake and Ida's idea than mine, but they were like, well, if we want to have these opportunities, we just need to create them ourselves. So originally Rubber Ptarmigan was started to just like, I think, track all the shows that were happening and promote the shows that were in existence. But then we realized early on that we need to like start making these shows happen. So we started finding venues and putting on showcases and just figuring everything out as we went. And we've grown since then to have relationships with a lot of venues across the state. And we're doing our best to make comedy more of a thriving, I don't want to go as far as say industry here, but it's a really special thing that means a lot to the people who perform and the people who see it. So we just want to make it bigger and better all across Alaska.
A going concern, as it were, for sure. Jake, tell us a little bit about your part in this. Creating this troupe. Was it easier when you had when you had a bunch of comics versus one kind of standing alone? Was that part of it, or walk us through here how you guys kind of got started?
Yeah, well, first of all, I like how you describe us as the Rubber Ptarmigan, like we're a super villain, like the Batman or something.
Rubber Ptarmigan.
Yeah. The Rubber Ptarmigan.
Beware the Rubber Ptarmigan. That's right.
Oh, dude, you have a movie voice. In a world with a Rubber Ptarmigan. Like Ben said, it was really a function of necessity where I don't know if any one person stood out. And I think that's part of it too, where really a collection of people who, like, if you've ever been to a show here, I think people are often surprised at how good the local scene is. And so I think that was for us kind of a realization of like, we have a lot to offer as a community of comics, and the challenge is just the opportunities and kind of like a subculture of like a music scene, like in Seattle or anywhere where a subculture of art is really thriving. It's almost always DIY. Those people are doing the production and the promotion themselves while also getting better at the art form. And it's kind of silly to call telling dick jokes an art form, but it's kind of the reality of if you want to be good at it, you have to do it a lot, and you have to have a community of people that are excited to come out and watch you, because stand-up is kind of a unique art form where it's collaborative. Right. You need an audience there to be excited to participate with you.
Yeah, no, and especially your guys' timing was probably pretty apropos, because again, as Ben said, right there during COVID, and everybody needed a little bit to, of lighter side. Everybody needed a little bit of needed a laugh, because life was so serious, and everything was going on, and I've always found that comedy is one of my favorite things, because it just allows you to just kind of laugh at the frivolity of life, some of the ridiculousness. We get steeped in politics and all this other kind of stuff. And, it doesn't matter when you're sitting next to somebody and somebody's telling a good joke, everybody's laughing together. And I just love that. I think that is it's a almost the universal glue that helps people. Laughter is the best medicine kind of thing. Not to be too trite, but it is good when you can walk out of a show and wipe the tears from your eyes and go, man, that was a lot of fun. And we've seen that time and time and time again. And so I'm excited to hear you guys have been doing this across the state. I guess you're working your way. Susanna at the Porcupine said you guys are coming down here on Wednesday night at 7, but you guys are working your way down the peninsula all the way to here, right? Is this the final show of kind of the tour, or are you guys kind of going all over the place? Jake?
Yeah, so this actually Ben and I are just getting done with a little bit of a tour separate from this one with nationally touring, actually a world touring comedian named Jessica Michelle Singleton, who's originally from Anchorage, but now has kind of bloomed into to this comedian that travels the world. And she came up here to release her special, and if you haven't looked it up, it's called Hi Y'all. It's amazing. And she took us to Ketchikan, Skagway, Juneau, Talkeetna. We went up to Fairbanks and we went down to Cordova, and we just got done yesterday in Palmer. So we've kind of ran through it the last 10 days, and then this tour is actually kicking off in Homer at the Porcupine, which is going to be super exciting because it's if you haven't been down there, it's absolutely beautiful. They just remodeled it and it's unbelievable. And then we're going to go to Soldotna the day after, then Seward at the Tidewater Tap House, and then we're coming back to Anchorage to do shows on Saturday and Sunday on Mother's Day.
Wow, a little bit of a whirlwind there as well, and of course, giving us a little support here with the Shorebird Festival, and of course helping out the Homer Senior Center and everything else. So it's all part and parcel of it. Jake, tell us a little bit about how did you get started in comedy? Tell me, what was your thing? Were you always a funny guy, or is it something that you just kind of developed, or how did you get started?
Yeah, I started, another comedian and I went to an open rehearsal for an improv group in town. I think it was Urban Yeti. And we just started to chat, and he mentioned that there's an open mic at Chilkoot Charlie's on Wednesdays for stand-up comedy. And I've always really enjoyed stand-up comedy, but it hadn't occurred to me to try it, but I enjoyed chatting with him, and we went down there and I watched for a few weeks and was like really nervous, but excited about maybe trying it. Cause I do, that's like something that I value about myself, or I've at least thought of myself as kind of like a funny or a witty person. And I found out pretty quickly after my first mic that I'm not. But I got like a laugh or two. And I was kind of hooked. It's like, it's so much fun to be in front of a group of people, and all of them kind of tell you that you're funny. It's really, really great. And beyond that, like the community of stand-up comedians here is delightful. There's just so many hilarious people, and I find it very welcoming and a great outlet.
How about you, Ben? How did you get started in this gig? It seems like it's like I said, I've done stand up. I did a class. We did the thing. We got a chance to stand up there. And even though I do a lot of speaking, and I'm not obviously not mic shy, it is a whole different deal. It is a whole different deal when you stand up there. How did you get started?
Sure. I've always really loved comedy and all the things that it can do. And I think the first time I thought I want to be a stand-up comedian, I was probably 13 or 14 in school. And I realized very quickly that I came to think very quickly, I couldn't possibly have like the confidence or the skill to do that. So I sort of stashed that dream. And then some years later, when I was in college, I had, I think a lot of people who get into stand-up, it happens this way. You have friends who are like, you should stand up. And you're like, okay. So I tried it once and it went okay. I don't know. The first few times that you do it, you sort of black out. So it's hard for you to assess how it goes.
What just happened? I just
Exactly.
where am I? Where am I?
Exactly. So the first, like, all throughout college, I did stand up, but I would do it very infrequently. I would do it once every few months, maybe. And I had this hang up in my head where it was like, I can't tell the same joke twice. It needs to be like totally original and fresh. And I would invest so much importance for myself, and like, it would just build it up so much in my head for each performance. Performance. I would do an open mic, and there would be 10 people there. And after, so because I was so like stressed out about it, and I was making such a big deal out of it in my head, every time when it was over, there would be this huge like crash, and I would just feel like all the emotional anxiety I put myself through was not worth this experience. And so it would feel like I don't want to do this anymore. And then months would pass, and I'd be like, well, I still kind of want to try it again. And it took, I think it took like I went through a big like personal ordeal in 2017, 2018. And coming out of that, I was like, I need to do this comedy thing, because this is like the thing that I care about most, really. And so I need to change my philosophy about it. And so I started just like being okay with telling jokes multiple times and forcing myself to go to more mics, which was like really, really hard for someone like me. I'm very introverted and shy. So it was like, for a long time, every single mic that I went to was really hard to get myself to do. But the more and more you do it, the more comfortable you get, and the better you get. And you start to become part of the community, which helps you feel more encouraged to do it more and more. So it's kind of snowballed from there. And now I feel a lot more comfortable and free doing it, which feels really nice. That's how it was for a lot of the beginning.
Yeah, no, it's it's one of those things. The repetition and the practice makes perfect as far as it goes. I used to think about that, like, do you have to write new commercials, new material for every show? And then you realize, of course not. You find your best stuff, and then you create a set out of that, right, Jake? I mean, you find your most common stories that resonate with you and that seem to resonate with the audience, and you create a narrative out of that, right? Multiple stories that you tie together.
Yeah, I think you find like one kernel that, or for me, I would say like one kernel that kind of clearly resonates with with people, and then for me, I kind of build off of that. And keep adding jokes and tags, and try and like wander around and find a purpose for the joke. Yeah, that's kind of the process that I've gone through. It's very much like throw everything against the wall and hope something sticks. And it's been really fun.
Yeah.
What was your first, Michael? What was your first mic like, or when you went through the class?
Well, it was interesting because they told us to, of course, pick things out of your life and find things that you thought are funny in retrospect, and then build off of that, and then kind of build a narrative. And so I just kind of told the whole story of, my grandmother was born in a log cabin north of Fairbanks back in the day, when your 10 by 10 cabin was not your sterile operating environment, so she was a pretty tough old lady, and told the story there and got through it and talked about growing up. And I think one of the stories was the Roman candle wars when we were kids and shooting fireworks at each other, and my dad getting gasoline poured in his ear, just all kinds of weird stuff that happens, that's strictly Alaskan, right? That you don't hear about. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, it is. I respect you guys, because it's hard to try and take stories that you think are funny, and do they relate to everyone else, kind of thing,
Yeah, that's for sure. But like you mentioned, I mean, there are some through lines and some commonalities that are not only like unique to you but that often like resonate with other people. But even like as an Alaskan, like it sounds like you grew up in Fairbanks. We were just there, and it was the third place in a row where the person who was producing the show told us they wanted to show us the sights, and the first place they wanted to show us was the dump, which is classic Alaska of like that's like the thing to do is go and hang out at the dump.
Well, we're always looking for extra stuff, we can never do it. All right, well, let's wrap up here again. Wednesday at 7 at the Porcupine Theater. Ben, you previewing anything? What are you guys doing? Are you guys doing a conglomerate where you're bouncing off each other? Is it single one at a time, or how does this work?
Yeah, we do individual sets. So we'll figure out one of us will host this show and do a shorter set up top, and then the host just introduces each comic in turn, and they do their 10, 20 minutes, however long they're doing. We haven't built in any kind of like duo acts or team riffing sessions or whatever, but those can be really fun. So maybe at some point in the future we'll branch out into that. But for now, it's just we're all practicing our material, and we're getting more comfortable with longer sets and interacting with the crowd.
Yeah, well, it's a craft. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's a craft that you have to work at, and thing. Jake, any final thoughts here before I let you guys go?
I don't think so. I really appreciate you having us on and being interested in local stand-up comedy and giving us the chance to, bring up our shows to a bigger audience.
No, I love it. Like I said, laughter is the best medicine. And, people get all bent out of shape about everything today. It seems like everybody's mad about everything, and everything becomes, whatever. And I just, sometimes it's better to just laugh a little bit and enjoy each other and have a good time. And I think, and especially if you're supporting a good cause like the festival or helping out the seniors here in Homer, I think that's a great cause as well. So it's something that I think we should all get behind. All right. So Jake and Ben and the whole crew at Rubber Ptarmigan, thank you guys for coming on board and joining us today. We appreciate you being part of it. Hang out for just a second here, and we'll be right back to you during the commercial break. Folks, we got more coming up. Now that we've had a little bit of our levity and our light, now I got to bring out the whips and the chains. And yeah, we're going to talk about the legislature and politics and yada, yada, yada. All right. Back with more. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense. Liberty-based. Free-thinking radio. We return with more right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, in the commercial break right now, just wanted to say thank you to you guys. Appreciate you guys all coming on board, and looking forward to seeing what you guys bring to the table this week. It should be fun. It should be a good time will be had by all. So appreciate you getting up so early, Ben. I know it was hard. Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that your radio voice is the exact same. Your voice off radio is the same.
Yeah, it's just the way it is. It's just it's developed over the years. That's how it is. It just kind of rolls that way. So, all right, guys.
Wait, so has it changed your voice in your personal life doing radio?
So I think it's just this is the way my voice has always been since I was young. But I've been doing radio since I was 15, so maybe this is just how it is. So maybe it's just that's just kind of the role. Maybe it was me shaped by the role, or the role shaped by me. One of the two. I can't tell which one. So,
well, thanks very much, Michael. I really appreciate
you guys. Appreciate you guys coming on board and joining us this morning. And we look forward to seeing you guys on Wednesday. Thanks for coming on, guys. Appreciate it.
Of course.
All right. That was Ben and Jake from Rubber Ptarmigan. I just looked at something here, and somebody said something about not being on the radio. And I'm just looking to make sure that everything is running properly. Okay. All right. Well, we will continue here in just a moment. looks like no. Doggone. Let me see what's going on here. Let me see what's happening here, guys. Good morning. How are you this morning? I hope you are ready to rock and roll here. We're going to get into this with thing. Oh, that's why. That's not what I wanted to have. Okay, so anyway, I screwed something up here. That's my bad. I screwed something up, and now I've got to fix it. Wow, this is just gonna suck here, isn't it? Okay. Well, let me see if I can fix this right here. And we'll see if we can get it going on here this morning while we're in the commercial break. See how that is? See how that works? All right. I just blew the whole thing apart. We'll see we'll see if we can fix this right now. Okay. All righty. Let me see if I can, right there. Okay. All right. Looks like I fixed it. I mean, I tried anyway. I tried to fix it. We'll see what it looks like. Okay. Let me get caught up in the chat room here now that I have totally screwed up the whole world, and we'll go for there. All right. Dad. Yeah, ask his kids. Dad, don't use your radio voice on me. I know. His barber says his voice has not changed over the years. No, I mean, maybe when I was younger, I don't know. It's one of those things. One of those things. We're the tough crowd on Monday, says Brian. We show up here to get the pain. I'm only here to bring it to you. I'm only here to bring it to you. That's what it's all about. I'm bringing the pain. All right. Well, that's a little bummer because because of my snafu, I realized that the stations down here were not playing. We're not playing this.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Well, I feel a little silly. I feel a little foolish, I'll be honest with you. All the folks in the Homer area who are just joining us down on the peninsula. Sorry, guys. This is from when I was traveling last week, and Gallagher was on, et cetera, and I had one anyway. I fixed part of it, but not the other part, and here we are. So that was my bad. So sorry, guys. Welcome back, and thanks for just joining us. We were just talking with the boys from the Rubber Ptarmigan about the big show that's happening at the Porcupine this Wednesday in support of not only the Shorebird Festival, but also, of course, of the Homer Senior Center. So if you haven't had a chance and you want to get back, you should go back and listen to the podcast, because I left those guys. I let those guys go. We could have repeated, but we let those guys go here in the last segment. But it was great. It was a good little thing. It's good to laugh. Sometimes you got to laugh, because otherwise you'll cry, and nobody likes it when I ugly cry. That's all I'm saying. Nobody likes it when I ugly cry. But sometimes you got to do that. You just got to laugh so that you don't cry all the time. We are coming up on all the shows or all the stuff now that's happening this week in the legislature, and there is some crazy stuff going on down there in Juneau, including the latest, which if you haven't heard yet, is from Representative Zach Fields, who is now proposing a $1,000 PFD with means testing. Means testing. So that means that if you make too much money, and in this case, too much money to Zach Fields is $50,000 a year. If you make $50,000 a year, then no PFD for you. That's what it works out to be, $1,000. And he's going on and on and on about a right-sized PFD, an appropriate PFD, and an affordable PFD, and all these other things. When, of course, he's been part of the cadre that has just been down there spending it like it's, spending it like giving drunken sailors a bad name, kind of spending it. So this is the latest piece. He's a HB 209. And it's ironic. Here you are, and he lives in a district where it's a lower income district. So this won't affect his constituency very much, but it will affect everybody else outside of that constituency, which is unfortunate because the permanent fund dividend is supposed to be Alaskans' share of their oil wealth, we are collective owners. That's how it's written. I didn't write it. I didn't, I wasn't the one who came up with the whole deal. This is something that the legislature has, that the framers came up with, and the folks who were here during statehood. This was all their deal. I didn't come up with the quasi communal aspect of owning the resources in common. But by golly, if we are resource owners in common, then shouldn't we have a share? Shouldn't we be able to share in those things, regardless of our means or where we're at, or what? Shouldn't there be an equitability in that? I mean, if you own a common stock in some company and receive a dividend, it doesn't matter if you have a job or if you don't have a job, if you're rich or you're poor. If you have the shares in the stock, you should get your share of it. That's how that works. But Zach Fields is again pushing this ideal that it should be means tested. Now, I don't know where this is going to go today. I don't know if this, I mean, it's pretty late in the session. I don't imagine that they're going to hear from it, but you can already see they're telegraphing their next move. The next move now because you've heard this phraseology, right? You've heard the words and the verbiage of, affordable PFD, right-sized PFD. That on the other side, it was a supersized PFD, an unaffordable PFD. And that's a problem. That's a problem. So now they want to cut it down to $1,000, which is nowhere near the 75-25 that the Senate has been pushing towards for a long time. They said that was their long-term plan, was to hold it at 75-25. And now because $1,000 PFD is somewhere in the like 82-17 range, 82-18 range, right in there. It's 82 or 83% of the entire take, leaving us with $1,000. Like I said, there's not going to be much left over when this is all said and done. We're about to lose the whole thing. The whole PFD is going to go away because they have found other things that they believe it should be spent on. And that's what it's all about. So, yeah, I don't know how means testing is going to get I don't know how means testing is going to get through the courts, because I know that part of the whole Zobel case was a means testing, not for finances, but for residency, and whether or not we should all be treated equal on that regard. So that's a tough question to see whether or not that'll be. We'll see what's going on. We'll see what's going on. Anyway, that's the big news for today. We're going to get into that. Plus, the latest that happened over the weekend, including the budget that's being proposed by the Senate, and the fact that the Anchorage School Board is also considering reversing all of its cuts now that it looks like that this $700 boost may be in the bag, because the legislature is saying that they have a veto-proof majority, is what the word is right now. If the governor decides to veto the $700 million, they have a veto-proof majority. We'll see. We'll see what it looks like here in the long run. Before I go, my wife asked me to tell you guys this. Lisa Ann is the gal that cuts the hair of her dog, and they have lost. This is for folks down here in the Homer area. Her little black poodle, Frank, took off yesterday while she was out of town. He's wearing a black hoodie. He's 14 and pretty much blind and deaf. So if you see a black poodle wearing a black hoodie, that sounds gangster, doesn't it? That sounds very gangster. Black poodle wearing a black hoodie. You should call her 226-3335. Don't approach him, because he doesn't like people very much. He's blind, he's deaf, he's 14, he's in a hoodie, and he doesn't like people. He is gangster. 226-3335 if you see a black poodle in the Homer area. They are out at East End. So anyway, if you guys would keep an eye out, that would be great. Again, 226-3335. That's Lisa Ann out there from Lisa Ann's Grooming. All right, we got to go. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have more of some of the latest and greatest. We will return in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Okay. Oh, it's Monday, man. It's Monday. Yeah, it's like the legislature is Arnold. Remember when I said I would stop at 75-25? I lied. Yeah, we just heard about the needs-based PFD from COP a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, he was talking about that in that press conference, remember? Yeah. Comedy Monday morning didn't increase my likes. No, I know. I've kind of given up on the whole likes thing. I mean, it'd be easy for everybody to just mash the like button when they jumped onto the show and liked it, but I don't know. It's gonna be a thing. Gangster poodles. Means testing the PFD, said Chris, gives Brad what he's been wanting. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's what Brad's been wanting at all. I don't think that's what Brad is asking for. He wants to protect the PFD, not to means test it. Melissa's over here helping me. Like, comment, and share. Got to do the trifecta. I mean, yeah, if you want more people to do, that would be the way to do it. Melody says it's never going to happen, the SB 209. It's unconstitutional. I think that there's definitely some questions. Chris says, didn't we already do this with the Zobel case? Yeah. And Lisa Ann says, I think you should need to be here 5 years to get it. Again, that was the Zobel case, Lisa, that there was a means testing in the beginning that had to do with residency, and that was struck down by the courts because you couldn't do that. It was discriminatory. Yeah, our $4,000 PFD is now going to be $1,000. Yeah, exactly. Because they know better than you, my friends, how to spend that money. That's the whole point. They know better than you how to spend that money. Rob says, ooh, the needs-based PFD is the trap we fall into when we rely on the impact on the poor as the justification for the PFD. That's true. Because again, it's not just free money. It's not welfare. See, that's the thing. When they start talking about things like means-based things, that's when they're treating it like it's welfare. And it's not. That's not what it's about. So it's, yeah. And have we forgotten about the small pay raise that they voted for themselves? I haven't. Pepperidge Farm remembers. I mean, we don't forget 67%. 67% pay raise. Don't worry about that. Yeah. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. Alaska dividend distribution plan violates the guarantees of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. The new one would, I would argue. The current one doesn't. Can someone explain to me how it's legal for them to tax children via stolen PFDs? Well, again, they're going to say it's state spending and they have a full handle on state spending. That's what the appropriations, that's what that whole Wielkowski case was about, was whether or not they had the statutory or constitutional authority for appropriations. And that's what it boiled down to, So yeah, it is, and it is. The PFD is the singular thing that you can point to that should make it obvious to everyone, left or right, that the government's only loyalty lies in itself. How many different ways can they change a thing that was state constitutionally never meant to be changed? Yeah. Yeah. The only way the means-based PFD would be unconstitutional would be if all other means-based programs were unconstitutional. I don't know, Rob. I mean, that could be argued for some of these other programs too. I mean, with whether you have to be a resident or I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, nor do I play one on TV, but it just seems like this wouldn't make a lot of sense. Wouldn't make a lot of sense in that regard. All right, we're going to jump back into this. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Let's do this thing. Okay. Continuing on here, wrapping up hour 1 of the Michael Duke Show. Lisa, who was on the program, was it last week? Talking about Nikolaevsk School. She said today at 10:30 is the Kenai Peninsula Borough School District meeting, 6 p.m. Oh, wait a second. 10:30. There's a 10:30 meeting at the KPB School District, meeting at 6 p.m. for the community. They get 2 minutes to speak their piece. She says she's got some great news about Nikolaevsk that she's going to speak tonight at the meeting. Good for you, Lisa. I hope it's good stuff. I hope you got some good stuff here. We were just talking during the commercial break here about this idea of means testing the PFD, and I mean how problematic the whole idea is of it. And again, especially since the genesis of the PFD was all about sharing your, getting in your share of the Alaska resources that you own collectively as a resident, as a citizen body. I think Jay Hammond was the one that said it was the ultimate expression of capitalism because you'd lost your ability to have mineral rights on your properties and everything else. And this is the way to get it back, was through the PFD. So just one of those things that's amazing to take a look at. And it's very frustrating to watch. All right, let's take a look at some of the other stories that are going on around the state. What else has happened during the weekend? And one of them, of course, is childcare's back. Remember childcare last year? Remember how childcare was a big deal, and we said this is just the beginning. Both Brad and I were talking about this, that childcare is just going to be the next chink in their, just next notch in their totem that they were going to try and prop up every year. That last year, it was only $3 million in tax credits or whatever it was. But that was going to be the next big thing. Well, now the legislature, the state house, put $14 million into this year's budget to help stabilize the childcare sector, to help stabilize it. Last month, the House passed its version of the operating budget, according to Sean McGuire in the ADN, with $7.7 million in grants for childcare providers and $6.1 million in subsidies for families. Now, the Senate did not include the same appropriation. So the Senate's bill doesn't have that $14 million in there that the House version does. And the story goes on to talk about how, we've got high tuition, long waiting lists, problems, yada, 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 about how childcare is very expensive. Yes, it is. But my question remains, is it the government's responsibility to prop up or pay for a sector like this? Is that really the responsibility? I mean, it would be nice, don't get me wrong. But wouldn't it be easier if you, got out of the way of childcare? I mean, because it used to be when you would have, Betty down the street watch your kids because she was retired and she was looking for something to do and like making a little bit of extra money, a little bit of cash money, that was just fine. But now you've got the state government where you've got to walk everybody through the ringer. They've got to do the perp lineup. They've got to do the fingerprints. They've got to do all the background checks. They've got to do all this kind of stuff, all this government regulation. And then they've got to have, everything else, the insurance. And they turned it into where the government oversight of this stuff has driven the price sky high. I mean, I don't know how much childcare is now, but I know at one point when I looked at it a few years ago, it was, $500-600 per kid per month. Which leads to a bigger question, which I guess we won't get into today. But, the question of, do both of you really need to work if that's the case, if that's how much it's costing? And I don't care which one of you stays home, but I mean, if you got a couple kids and it's costing you $1,200 a month just in childcare, plus extra wear and tear on the vehicle, plus extra, meals out, plus extra insurance, plus the higher tax brackets. I just started asking questions like, does this even make sense? The story goes on to talk about how Bright Beginnings, which was one of the state's largest child care providers, is now shut down. But that they need all these programs, that they have to have it. There's somebody whose name is Blue Shibler, is the executive director of the Southeast Alaska Association for the Education of Young Children. Wow, that's a mouthful. And she said the child care subsidy should be permanently included in the state's baseline budgets, like a BSA. Like it's just automatic. And again, I just, why is this the legislature's problem? This is an industry problem. This is a regulatory problem because of the cost that it's driving up. And exactly, again, why is this a governmental problem? I just never thought to look to the government to say, you should help me pay for my babysitter. That never even crossed my mind. Why is it the government's responsibility to do those things? I guess the argument could be made is that they're the one that's created this working environment where it costs so much to become a child care provider that they should pay for it. But again, wouldn't the answer then be to deregulate that industry or to get out of the way so that Betty down the street, the retired lady who was looking for something to do and like to make a few extra bucks, could do something like that? I mean, I'm scratching my head here, but this idea that somehow we should make it permanent, that it should be permanently in the budget, just seems a little short-sighted, especially considering the fact that we just don't have the money. Which is what, Kathy Giesel said it. That's her quote, is the problem is we don't have the money. I hate to agree with her, but she's not wrong. $14 million. I don't understand. All right, we got to go. Back with more. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Hour 2 is dead ahead. We're going to get more into this when we return. Okay. Anthony said, I'm just baffled that the average human doesn't immediately run for the hills when the prospect of the government having a hand in raising your children pops up. Yeah. That's exactly it. Chris said, we chose to have me stay home to watch our own kids. I did a show on this one time. And I remember because somebody got so mad at me. They got some hate at the radio station because somebody got so mad at me because my suggestion was, and I think they missed my point. I wasn't trying to say women should remain barefoot and pregnant and go make me a sandwich in the kitchen. I was talking about a working age couple I don't care who stays home. I don't care if it's the man or the woman. You do you. In my household, I was the breadwinner. That's kind of how it was. I had, and so my wife didn't work outside the home when the kids were growing up. Because she was focusing on raising the kids. That's something we decided together. If you want to have, I don't care which one of you goes to work and which one stays home, but you need to do the math. Does it make sense for both of you to work if 80% of what the second spouse, one of the spouses is making, is being consumed by the act of having to go to work, between childcare and, like I said, extra meals, wear and tear on the car, insurance, gas, meals out, things that you have to do because you're both working, things you have to pay for that could have been done by you. If all, plus the higher tax bracket, does it make sense? That raised so many, people had so many problems with that because they thought I was just trying to say that the little woman should stay home and do, I don't care. I'm saying both of you should do the analysis. Just the both of you. I'm sorry, I'm just going through here. My kids have a good arrangement. Son is a pilot, wife is a nurse. They stagger their schedules. It works great. Yeah. Exactly. If you can work that out, that's great. That's how it is. If not, then you have to pay for it. That's how it works. I'm scrolling backwards here to see what they want to do. Pre-K didn't fly, said Chris, so now it's all about the state-funded childcare. Yeah. Classic state government move. Let me save your children. No, thank you. Keep the children under government control for as long as you can so that when they are adults, they will rely on the government. Well, that's the thing. These people of, what are we, fourth or fifth generation now of, where government is the solution to every problem. So if they can't make it in the world, they immediately go to government to say, you guys need to bail us out. That makes, it makes no sense. Rick said, state-run government schools, yes or no, that's the ticket. Do you want better kids, build smaller schools, and get more parents to be involved in that small school? It's proven that they're out there. They learn how to garden. They learn how to drive when they're younger, all kinds of things. It's not about being in a square box 6 or 8 hours a day. Some of the new schools out there only have class 3 hours a day, and the rest of the time it's outside or doing things that benefit them when they're going to be adults. Yeah, I agree. We need to look at what we're doing in the education system and understanding that it's not working. It's not working. All right. I was back. I scrolled all the way back to where I was before. Okay. Terry says, if you're going to have kids, stay home and raise them. That's how you get responsible adults. Terry's not pulling any punches. If you have kids, just raise them. See, that's the thing. Sold this fairy tale that they can basically have kids and then have the rest of their full lives as well. That they can, they can have kids and they can have their cake and eat it too. They can have kids and a full career and everything else. And just send your kids off to the daycare. And then when they're old enough, then send them off to the school, which is the ultimate babysitter, and you can have it all. The bottom line is you can't really. There's always going to be somebody that suffers in that regard. And in this case, I think it's your kids. So maybe you should do some analysis and then do this, the sacrificial thing that needs to be done. Yes. See also unemployed fatherless behavior. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. We're going to get back into this. We got to go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Whoa, buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at MichaelDukesShow.com and across the great state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Hello, my friends. Good morning and welcome back to the program. It is the beautiful, beautiful Monday. That's right. It doesn't get any better than this. We're just going to, do our thing, get ready for the week. We're continuing on this morning. We've got more to talk about here in just a little bit with what's going on in the legislature and the latest set of bills, including the new budget coming out of the Senate. That'll all be part and parcel of what we talk about today. But this morning, we're going to continue on with more of what's going on in the local community as well. I keep encouraging Fairbanks folks to reach out and tell me what's going on as well. I'd love to have you on. But joining us this morning, we've got Dorotha Ferraro, who is with South Peninsula Hospital. She comes on this morning to give us the latest and greatest of things. They've got a big survey coming on where they're trying to figure out how to serve the community better. And I've asked her to come on to talk with us about it and all the other things that are happening here with our local hospitals. And so I've asked her to join us this morning. Should we get started? I think we should. I think we should just get to it and see what's going on. Good morning, Dorotha. How are you this morning?
Well, good morning, Michael. I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on board. As always, it's a pleasure to talk with you and to get the latest of what's happening down here in our community. So tell us, you guys have got a big survey going on right now. I think I've actually gotten the phone number that I actually have. I think I got the phone call because I think I denied it. I'm like, who's this? And I said, I'll ignore that call. I'll come back to it later. But you guys have been doing this phone survey. Tell us about what's going on and what the hospital's doing and what we should do as community members to help.
You bet. Well, thank you very much. So as you said, that we've launched a community feedback survey. So this isn't a survey about necessarily your most recent experience at South Peninsula Hospital. It's a big picture survey. It's a survey to get community feedback on your community hospital. It is done in kind of three parts. The survey's in three parts. The beginning section, we just talk about, or we ask questions about your relationship with healthcare in general and the hospital on the Southern Peninsula. We ask a few questions kind of about the recent ballot proposition for the general obligation bond that happened in October, that failed in October. And then we ask questions about the future of the community hospital. So you mentioned a telephone call. So what we decided to do, we reached out and worked with McKinley Research. And that is a statewide research group that has a lot of experience gathering community input and data. And we decided that for the Lower Peninsula, a two-pronged approach would be best. And we started with 2 weeks of telephone surveys. And the purpose of doing the telephone surveys was to reach a demographic that might not be online, but also to really kind of make sure that we have statistically relevant and verified results to a bare minimum that we need to be sure that we have enough to call it a verifiable representative survey. And then it up to 2 weeks online. So there's still a few follow-up phone calls happening, but most of those are complete. And now we are pretty much strictly on the online computer base. So if you haven't yet, we invite folks to go ahead and go to the hospital website, SPHOSP.org, and click the Take the Survey. And it's pretty quick and easy, and would love to hear from you.
All right. Well, and that's some good stuff. We And of course, getting a statistically relevant sample is important. You got to talk to enough people to do it. And so doing it by phone and doing it online, probably some good stuff. Is this something that people can volunteer for, or were they sent personal invites, or I mean, how does it, if folks are in this lower peninsula right now and they want to go fill out the form, can they just go do it, or?
Absolutely. We're on the honor system now. So we're just trusting that the folks clicking that link are on the Southern Peninsula. Or are regular users of the hospital. But yeah, it's definitely the honor system, and it's open to everybody to please chime in.
And what exactly, as you look through this, and so what exactly, how is it, what decisions are being made based off this? Is this looking just for direction from the, I guess, subscribers or the patients of the hospital? Just say, this is the direction we'd like to see. Is it broader? I mean, I know that people are concerned, obviously, about the cost of healthcare, and we got down here, right after the whole vote that went down on the ballot proposition, and I know that there was a lot of discussions. We had some folks on the show that were talking about it before I moved down here, and there was some concern about costs and everything else. So, are all these things addressed in this survey? Is how deep does it go?
Well, I'll tell you, that was the $1 million question in October. When the ballot proposition failed, it was pretty, other than the answer of no, that answer was clear. The why wasn't clear. And the reason was because it was such a loaded ask. It was loaded as far as the dollar value. It was loaded as far as the number of things in it. When you do a ballot proposition that's about a general obligation bond to put a new roof on a school, it's pretty easy to interpret the answer, the vote. But when you do a ballot proposition that is a large dollar figure, $38 million, and within it is up to 6 different projects and priorities, then it's hard to interpret the answer because, just as you said, you had lots of different opinions, lots of different people chiming in. I regularly heard from people on the street, at meetings, on forums like this, that I'm not interested in growth because a piece of that was to add services. Another person, I don't think we should pay taxes for the hospital. Another person, I don't want that specific service. I don't think we need it. Somebody can drive up the road for it. Another person was timing. Why don't we wait until after the election and see, what the local economy and statewide economy is? So there were so many different reasons that a person could vote yes or no, because there were over 1,000 people voting yes, and
right.
They had different reasons on why they were voting yes, as well as the people voting no. So this survey is to kind of answer that question of what next, or now what. Every time I go to the grocery store in the last few months, hey, now what? The bond failed, now what?
Right,
and
right.
So this information from the community will really help the board of directors inform what they're going to do with each of those pieces. Each of those pieces of that ask, those were relevant things and services and needs for the facilities that had been decided. And so now they just have to figure out, okay, what's the priority? Now what, and what's next?
Right. What's the thing that made it fail? Was there one thing? Was there two things? Was there something specific? Was it a combination of things? And what direction do you want the hospital to go in now? Which I think is good. I mean, taking that community input is important for this. And so having your voice be heard on this, and to tell people, why you voted for or against it makes sense. I know that it's been interesting to be down here and to realize some services are offered here, but other services are offered, 65, 70 miles away in Kenai at Central Peninsula Hospital. So, is that part of it? Is that part and parcel of it? How much more is it to have a service here than if it is to drive up there? So those are all, I think, good questions. And this is the time that if you are down on the Lower Peninsula and you want to have your voice be heard on this, and to tell them, this is why I voted the way I voted, now is the time to do it. So, Dorotha, how do folks, if they didn't get a phone call or they're not doing follow-ups, then what do they need to, where do they need to go, and what do they need to do?
So you just go to the hospital's website, and I want to explain the website for a second. The address is SPH, short for South Peninsula Hospital, SPHOSP.org, O-R-G. So why is it .org? Because I work for a nonprofit. I work for South Peninsula Hospital Incorporated. It's a nonprofit agency that has 501c3 that has been contracted by the Kenai Peninsula Borough to turn all of these facilities that they own into a place of healthcare. So it's this, it's a sublease and operating agreement that the borough does with the nonprofit. So the nonprofit has a board of directors, but then the borough has a designated service area, and that service area has an elected board of directors, and that board works to advise the borough on local needs and how to use best use the tax dollars.
Right.
So I work for the nonprofit. We work collectively with the borough. So the answer, go to the hospital's website. You can just Google South Peninsula Hospital. It'll show up. www.sphosp.org. And right there, it says, take the survey. And you click the survey, and it's really easy and pretty quick. And please do it by end of day Thursday. We're hoping to close on Friday morning. So please do it by end of day this Thursday.
And then what are next steps after you guys collate all the data, collect all the stuff, get the surveys? Then what happens? What goes on from there?
Okay, so the board of directors of the nonprofit that runs the hospital, right? They get in a room. Obviously, it's more than that, but anyway, over a series of meetings and planning, they take all the data, they merge what the community feedback is with their existing master plan. Like the board of directors, obviously any nonprofit, any organization, any company has a strategic plan. So they merge it with that, and they see, okay, what looks supported and what doesn't, and let's course correct if necessary. If the community is leaning this way and saying maybe, but not this, definitely this, then they course correct their strategic plan. But then they take that to the service area board and to the borough, because the borough owns the hospital, and the borough, through the subleasing operating agreement, they approve all of this. The borough is the lead to approve future next steps for the hospital, to approve building uses and purchases. So this is just step one for the local board of directors to put the community feedback into action.
All right. So if you've been out there and you've been complaining about, this, that, or the other, you're not happy about the vote, or you're not happy about the way the hospital's going, or healthcare. If you've got, this is your chance to have a say one way or the other, whether you voted for it or voted against it. Now you can tell them exactly why, because you're right. If it's just a yes or a no, that doesn't tell you much beyond yes or no, especially if there's multiple components of it. So now's your chance to do it. SPHOSP.org, and go out there and let your voice be heard. Get the thing. When should we know after the thing closes on Thursday and Friday? Will it be a month or two before we start to hear ideas of where the planning is coming from, or what are we looking at time frame wise?
Great question. So the plan is that by late August, September, I don't want to get too close to all the election chaos again, although this election might not be as chaotic, but probably by late August, September, we want to do community forums. And at the community forums, we want to present what the findings were, and not just what the findings are, but what the organization's recommendations are then based on the findings for the next steps.
Okay. And I know some people will probably, especially those that voted against the ballot proposition, may be like, I just don't want it. No, now's the time to tell why. I mean, if you want your voice to be heard, now's the time to do it. If you don't want to see another ballot measure come up that you won't agree with, you got to tell them why you wouldn't want to see it before they take all the time and effort to try and put it together. If it's still something that you're against, they need to know. So now's the time to get that vote out there, or get the word out there before you're faced with another ballot that you'll want to say no to, because that's why they're asking for this information. So.
And that's really that right there, Michael, was one of the clear messages that we heard literally from people in conversation. I wanted to be a part of this. Why didn't I know about this? I wanted to help help kind of inform what was on that ballot. And so the board, the leadership, we heard you that you want to be a part of that. And so this is the first step.
Yeah, you got to, you know what do they say? What was the old thing? Politics is a participatory sport, meaning you got to participate, right? I mean, you got to do it. So this is the time. Take the 5-10 minutes or whatever it is to go ahead and do the survey. And then you'll at least have your voice be heard on this, and you'll be on the record as saying why you voted for or against it, or what you want to see or what you don't want to see. And I think this all makes sense. Okay, so Dorotha, final pitch. spohp.osp.org. That's South Peninsula HOSP, right? So spohosp.org.
You got it. It's also on our Facebook page. I forgot to say that. So it's on our Facebook page, and we're running some Facebook ads, some newspaper ads, some radio ads. So there's a reminder out there that you don't have to remember just from this conversation. You will be reminded by listening to your fine show and station, but also on our Facebook page and in the newspaper as well.
Right. Or you could just Google South Peninsula Hospital and find it right there. Just put South Peninsula Hospital survey and boom, you'll be right there. All right, but they've got to do it by Thursday night. Get it all done, because you guys want to wrap this up by Friday, right?
Yes, and there's multiple choice answers, but then there's plenty of open-ended. So you can either, you can just not worry about the open-ended if you don't have a ton to share. But the nice thing is there's limitless open-ended that you can share as much as you like.
Okay. All right. So go out and do it. Dorotha Ferraro, South Peninsula Hospital, spohosp.org. If you want to do the community survey, which I recommend if you live in the Southern Peninsula, the Lower Peninsula, this is where you should be doing it. That way you don't have to complain like they didn't talk to me. Well, they tried. They're trying right now to get it done.
That's
all
great.
right. Dorotha, thank you so much for coming on board and joining us. We appreciate you sounding off and letting us know about this today.
Thank you, Michael.
All right. Appreciate it. That brings us up to the commercial break. And I got to push this other button. There we go. We got to get ready to go. We're going to continue here. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. More coming up. Hour 2 continues. Up next, the Senate's new budget. It's actually got a surplus. Or does it really? Maybe not. We'll be back. Don't go anywhere. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes on Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're in the break here, and we are ready to go. Yeah, I mean, don't complain if you don't. If you don't do the survey, you got no room to complain about what happens next go around, right? At least if you do my wife made me coffee. So good. At least if you do the survey, you could say they listened to you or they didn't listen to you. But maybe they won't put up, I doubt they'll put up the same proposition that they had last time, because it obviously caught them by surprise. They were like, oh, well, wait, maybe this isn't what people want. So at least good for them. They're trying to find out exactly what's on people's minds. Okay. Lisa says she's going to do the survey and she's going to share it to her page. Good for you. Good for you. That's what we need to do. More involvement. More involvement is always better than less involvement. That's for sure. Anthony said, no, it's not a participatory sport. Politics is like fantasy football. We're all here making picks and calling scores, but the real game of football is being played elsewhere, independent of our input. Sometimes, I mean, I can see that. I can see that. It is like a little bit of fantasy football. Frank says, they don't understand no. Now I have to explain. Well, yeah. I mean, I think I think we're good. Dorotha is asking. I think we're good, Dorotha, unless you've got something else you want to jump in with. I think we've covered it. Unless there's something else that you want to do with the whole do you know or anything else, please let me know. If you want to continue to stay on. Dorotha's asking me if we should continue to stay on. I'm good if you are. You let me know. Terry says Alaskans pay so much now, ballot measures are going to fail. And I think there will be some of that where people are like, they're worried. They're worried about all kinds of ballot measures, right? Especially ballot measures that are bond propositions, because again, they realize that it indebts their personal property and they're worried about that. I mean, I worry about that all the time when it comes to bond issues. That's always been one of my things. Chris said, I notice how Michael is now bringing up subjects from Homer more than Fairbanks or Anchorage. You know why? It's because I'm seeing these people all the time. I see people. I talked to Dorotha. I talked to Susanna down at the Porcupine. I talked to all these different people, and they're bringing it up. And I'm like, well, we should talk about that. We should bring it in. And I've been telling people in Fairbanks, if you want more, I want more interaction with those folks. But out of sight, out of mind. So like I said earlier, if folks have got stuff from other parts of the state, Fairbanks, Matsu, Anchorage, I'd love to interview them as well and talk to them about it, because that's the important stuff that we cover on the show. It should be community oriented, and the whole community of Alaska should be part of it. All right. Where was I? Turning that off. And Rick said, Chris, I don't think so, but it is his show. And Rick, he says, Rick, it's not that he talks about the local area, but 5 years ago, he hardly talked about Homer except for out as a vacation there. I don't mind myself to learn about Homer. Myself is a great place to go fishing. Yeah, no, I mean, hopefully you guys are learning more about, being on the peninsula. Come on down. I'd love to, I'd love you guys to learn more about it. But, I happen to run into these folks on a daily basis. And so it's always easy to say, hey, we should talk about that on the show. That's what we should do. We should talk about that on the show. And I just don't run into folks as much although I did in Fairbanks, and we talked about a few people that might want to come on the program to talk about some of those things. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Okay. Let's get back to it. I live on a dead-end street. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that stuff. Let's go.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Well, happy Cinco de Mayo. Cinco de Mayo. You got to love it, right? I mean, you got to love it. This is the, good stuff. All right. I hope you're having, I hope you're doing something fun to celebrate. Maybe we'll have tacos tonight. I don't know. We'll do something. Anyway, it's going to be good stuff. All right. Well, what else has happened over the weekend? There was all kinds of crazy stuff that went on. But the most interesting thing that came out was, to me, one of the more interesting things that came out was the draft budget was released, and they put it out, and James Brooks over at the Alaska Beacon, who's probably one of the best news reporters in the Capitol, in my opinion, doesn't always catch everything. I think that he could do a little better in bringing some alternate viewpoints in and doing some other things, but overall does a good job. Just the caveat there. So on Friday, the Senate committee finished working on the draft budget, and it is about $380 million less than the version passed by the House, and $1.7 billion less than what the governor proposed at the beginning or in December, back the governor's proposed budget. Now, a big part of that $1.7 billion is the reduction in the PFD, because the governor proposed a full PFD, $3,900, which, I mean, let's face it, we knew was going nowhere, right? We knew that was not going to happen. It was, well, it was theater. It was political theater. We knew that was just not going to happen because it was a huge deficit. It was going to be, we didn't have enough money. I mean, we had enough money to pay it if we would cut our spending on these other things. But of course we didn't. We we're just, no. So we knew that was going to get whittled down. He had again proposed that $3,900 dividend. The House reduced it to $1,400. And now the latest draft from the Senate has it at $1,000, which, again, I'll remind you that the Senate was the one last year that said, our fiscal plan is to pay the 75-25, the 25-75. That's our fiscal plan. Because people were saying, what's your long-term fiscal? I mean, how do you do? Because Ben Carpenter was talking about the fiscal policy working group stuff and all these other things. And they were like, no, our fiscal plan is 25-75. And of course, they immediately blew that up this year, because $1,000 dividend is more like 82, 83 to 17. So the dividend is only taking 17, maybe 18% of the overall POMV draw. They're using the rest for government. There was talk of a $500 dividend, but here we are. Okay. So the budget arrived in the Finance Committee. It had a huge deficit, and now it's leaving with a surplus. Now, the surplus is between $100 and $200 million. But is it really a surplus? The headline of this article from James Brooks reads, Alaska Senate Committee's draft budget has a surplus, and that's a sign of trouble. Right? So you look at it and you go, is it really a surplus? Both Lyman Hoffman and Bert Stedman warn that it's almost certainly an illusion. Why? Well, because because of how they factor the budget. Right? How do they factor the budget? Well, they base the budget on the price of the barrel of oil. That's how they factor the budget. They factor the budget on how much they believe, it's a prediction, the barrel of oil is going to be. Now, you'll remember, if you've listened to this program for any length of time, that I have always had some heartburn with this method. And in fact, if you look at the Charter of Changes, there are 4 different changes that I have suggested on the Charter of Changes. For those of you who have forgotten, change the players, meaning we need to we need to change out some legislators to make it work. We need to change the venue. I believe that the legislative session should be held on the road system. We need to change the rules. No more binding caucus. The conflict of interest rules should be real, not just this pretend thing. But the final one, which we don't talk about too much, is change the funding. And what I mean by that is that we should change the way that we factor the budget. That's number 4. Because this has been a problem. You'll remember when Sean Parnell was governor back in, was it 2014 or 2015, when he made a budget that was based, he had a proposed budget that was based on $115 per barrel for oil, I think, or maybe it was 105. It was well north of $100. The problem was by the time the budget was put forward, oil had already tanked down and it was in the mid to high 70s. So he'd proposed a budget that was so overblown and extravagant, it just really didn't make any sense. And what we're finding out now is, again, the upcoming budget is based on the forecast from March, which had predicted that oil prices would average about $68 per barrel in the coming fiscal year. Now, the problem with that is that since that time, the futures market has taken a beating, a drubbing. And now we're looking at the potential of actually having oil be somewhere in the mid-50s on average for the coming year. And that has to do with tariffs and all different kinds of factors and the president. This is why I have said this is not how we should be factoring our budget. Now, first and foremost, ideally, what we'd be doing is zero-based budgeting. Instead of starting with what did we do last year and building from that, we should do zero-based budgeting. But regardless of that, what we should be looking at is at least an average, a rolling average of what the revenue was. And what do I mean by that? Well, we did that with the permanent fund for years, where there was a 5-year rolling average of the earnings of the fund, and that's what the permanent fund was, the dividend was paid off of, was a 5-year rolling average. So if you had a bad year, that was factored into the average of what was happening. And I've said we need to do that for our revenue. We should take a 5-year rolling average of our revenue, what we received as a state, and we should base our budget on that. Because then at least we'd have a realistic look at what it was like over the last 5 years. Instead of this pluck a number out of the air that the revenue department's doing, because they're hardly ever right. They're hardly ever right. I mean, the Sean Parnell $115 a barrel, that's like the worst case scenario. Even this one, though, 68 down to 55. Remember, for every dollar of per barrel of oil that it goes down, it's like $40 or $44 million. So when you're talking about $12 or $13 less than what they projected, you're talking about $550 million in deficit. And that's part of the problem. They factored it to 68. Today, it's looking like it'll be somewhere in the mid-50s. Lyman Hoffman said it may be as low as $64 a barrel, which, again, I think is very, very optimistic. Because, again, the numbers that I was looking at and what we've talked about on the program is that mid-50s is as low as it could go. Well, I mean, it could go lower. But, I mean, that's where they're projecting as the potential low. So we're talking about, $10, $12 less than what they're factoring on right now. And again, that means that $100 or $200 million deficit or a surplus is gone. That means we'll still be running a $2 or $3 or $4 million. They're saying right now, next year, we're going to have a significant deficit. Now, I think that they're soft selling it. I think they're saying between 300 and 600 million at the current estimates. But again, that doesn't factor in all different kinds of things like, the current contracts, the current employment contracts, which are still being negotiated. And that could be upwards of $300 million a year. Does that factor in the new education cost of $175 million? Does that even talk about defined benefits? Does that talk about increases in anything else? I think $300 to $600 million deficit next year, I think that's low. I think it's probably going to be closer to maybe $800 or $900 million, almost $1 billion. And again, they mentioned in this story, the union contracts, which are under negotiation, $100 to $300 million on top of what they just were talking about. $100 to $300 million. And that doesn't keep in mind the things that the federal government may not pay for anymore. I mean, we're talking about some of the Medicaid or Medicare, Medicaid programs, the expanded Medicaid programs. It could be, again, the fact that on federal road funds and highway funds, we may now have to match it not with 10%, but with 20%. That's been a discussion. The bottom line is, as you look at this, we're out of money. In fact, the final quote out of this article from James Brooks is from Lyman Hoffman, and it says, the fact of the matter is, at some point, the message needs to be, we can't continue as we are. Which is,
welcome to the party, pal.
I mean, you're just getting that now? You're just getting that. I mean, I guess thank God that they're finally coming to that realization, but you're just getting that now? I've been talking about this for years. And they're just getting to the point where they say, we can't continue as we are. Yeah, because we're broke. We are flat out busted. $300 to $600 million. And that, again, doesn't even account for the potential for new pay contracts and other things. Again, this could be $1 billion, folks. And I know what Stedman said, that people just don't seem to understand anymore.
And I think some of the rhetoric that we've had for the last 2 months is numbing people's minds on how big $1 billion is. You know, they act like we've got $1.5 billion underfunded. It's no big thing, or we're $1 billion, or we're 500 million. That is a pile of money. And when we look at adding another 100 million or so cut out of our operations, we put it in today, we take it out tomorrow.
I mean, that's the thing. $1 billion is not a little thing. And there's only so much savings that you can draw from, right? There's only 2.8 billion in the CBR, and they've got to leave almost $1 billion in there for operating, be able to cash flow for operating. So they have just about 2 billion that they can play with back and forth. But once that's gone, it's gone. And yet we need that 14 million for childcare. We need the other 60 million for this and 30 million for that and 100 million for this. It can't continue, folks. The way we're going, it cannot continue. And the ripple effects are going to be huge. I mean, we'll feel it all across all the communities around the state. But when there is no more, what else can you do? This is where you bite down on that stick and say, cut it out, Doc. We got to do what we got to do. All right. One final segment dead ahead, The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
All right. We're in the break right now, doing our thing. Tim says, easy to be greedy with other people's money. I mean, that's the thing. They treat it like it's all, it's all going to be okay. Frank says, yes, the Parnell days. I was able to have at least 4 years of warm house in the winter, still could afford to take the family out to dinner Friday night at McDonald's. Life was good, cheap heat. Except the Parnell days weren't as good as you remember, my friend. That's when they emptied out the CBR. Parnell, the end of the Palin and into the Parnell administration is when they spent $16 billion out of savings because they refused to reduce the size and scope of government. I mean, is it too early for margaritas? Says, well, it's never too early for margaritas. There's a little whiskey in my coffee. I get no, there's not, but should be. I'm just saying. All right. Anyone else having a flashback to the early 2000 teens right now? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's just that reminder of this is what it was like back then when we pretended that everything was just going to be okay. And the revenue department said, don't worry, it'll all be fine. And then the market said, hello, wake up. I mean, why don't we have this whole thing where we're changing the way that we do the budgets? Why do we keep doing this? We're just hurting. You're hurting yourself. You're hurting. Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? I just feel like we're at that point. Why are you hitting yourself? One too many hits with your snake, right? Why are we doing that? Tim says it's likely to jack us up to $1 billion to start talking about and make it easier to swallow a state tax. I mean, that is coming. That's coming. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. Unless we find a way to control the spending, a tax is inevitable because these people just can't control themselves. GD says, $1 billion is 1,000 million. Yes. But see, people, they just can't wrap their brains around that. Remember when $1 billion was a lot? Right? I mean, I remember in high school, the post, into Reagan and all that kind of stuff. And we're talking about millions of dollars, and $1 billion was a lot of money. And now $1 billion is $1 billion here, $1 billion there. And, it's no big deal. 1,000 million. Yeah. We're going to have a deficit, and who causes a deficit? Well, those that control the purse strings. They're the ones that cause a deficit. It's not, you could say it's the markets, it's this, it's that, but it's those who control the checkbook. They're the ones that are in control of whether or not we have a deficit. Because that's the one thing you can control. You can't control the markets. You can't control the demand for oil. You can't control the pricing. You can't control all these other things. The one thing that you do have a control over and handle on is the spending. And if you don't exercise that, well, there you go. Chris just said, I just went out, had a cheesesteak with fries and a soda, and cost with the tip was $44. Ow. I know, right? It's not a, you can't even buy a Happy Meal anymore. A freaking Big Mac with fries and a Coke costs $20. And that's up north. Down here, it's even worse. It's, it's not a cheap thing. That's how we go. Tim says, if you're talking about a tax, how much is enough? $3,900 per person? No, it's not going to be enough. They could take all of the PFD, and within another year, Tim, they'll be looking for more. And they're already talking about it.
But we don't yet live in a world where the Alaska people are ready for themselves to invest in their state government.
They want us to invest in the state government. That's it. They don't want us to invest. They want us to invest in the state government, even though they've taken almost all of the PFD, and they will take all of the PFD. Now they're going to say, well, now it's time for you to pay your fair share. The easiest type of government spending, says Randy, to control is the PFD. He's not wrong. That is the easiest way to do it. But the problem is it won't be enough.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. pinch of sorry, that is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
Randy in the chat room, who we disagree a lot on the PFD stuff, but he does state it out there, just the truth. The easiest type of government spending to control is the PFD. It is. But the problem is that once the PFD is gone, it's gone. And there's not enough money to fix the problem. There's not enough money left after taking the PFD to fix the issue. We're talking about $1 billion deficit. And once the PFD is 100% consumed and those things continue to go on, that's what's going to happen. Yes, the easiest type of government spending to control at this point is the PFD, but all that other spending, it needs to come under control. Because there's not enough, and there will be more taxes. The PFD is already a tax. They're already getting all the royalty and the revenues and everything else, and all of that stuff is coming back, is coming straight to the state. You're never seeing a dollar of it. So they're already stealth taxing us and then taxing the PFD on top of it. And then once they take all that, then they'll have a third tax, and this one will be, I don't know, a 2% sales tax or maybe an income tax or some other kind of tax that we'll have to pay because they want us to pay our fair share.
But we don't yet live in a world where the Alaska people are ready for themselves to invest in their state government.
That's what they want. Oh, you've got to invest in your state government. It's time for you to pay your fair share. They're already talking about it. And now Zach Fields with his SB 209, where he's going to eliminate the PFD only, except for those who are, the means tested PFD, where if you make too much money, you don't get it. Then it truly is welfare. Then it truly is welfare and not your fair share of the royalties that you are owed as an owner. More. It's always about more. M-O-A-R. More. We need more. And this article just, again, highlights that. The fact of the matter is, at some point, the message needs to be that we can't continue as we are, says Lyman Hoffman. Welcome to the party, pal. That's what we've been saying on this program for a long time. They're not looking at new, and you know what? I'm fine with them not looking for new revenue to fill the gap. This is not a revenue problem. This is 100% a spending problem. And now we've got this new union contracts that are under negotiation. That's going to be upwards of $300 million on top of everything else. I mean, at some point, we just got to say, whoa, where do we go from here? Well, here's where we go. The PFD is going to be gone. There's going to be some form of new tax that will be put on top of us. They're not done with education, by the way. They're not done with the education spend. They're already talking about it. There's an article in the ADN from Jeannie Kuntz that talks about this, how the Anchorage School Board is now reversing a lot of the cuts that they had put forward because now they're expecting to get that $700 boost to the BSA. But that's just the beginning. You see, board member Carl Jacobson and board president Andy Holloman assume at least a $560 BSA increase, but they say this is triage, as far as I'm concerned, to support our students as best we can because the job isn't done. He said the BSA increase would be $1,800 if lawmakers accounted for inflation-adjusted dollars over the last 10 years. House Bill 57 is historic, but it doesn't do what truly our students need and deserve. They're coming back. They're going to come back next year. They got $700 if it passes and if the governor doesn't veto or if they override his veto. But that still leaves $1,100 on the table. That still leaves another $250 million in increase that will be tacked on annually if they get their way. This thing's not done. They got what they want for this year, but next year they'll be right back at it again. And they'll be using the same tricks and tactics. We're going to cut sports. We're going to cut gifted and talented. We're going to cut immersion teachers. We're going to cut nurses. We're going to cut all this. We're going to cut full-time positions. 380 full-time positions is what they said in the school districts. Now, what they didn't say is that the majority of them are not filled. Many are being absorbed by retiring or resigning teachers, declining enrollment rates. So they didn't tell you that the 380 full-time positions, only about just over 200 of them are unfilled. So over half are unfilled, but they're funding them in the budget, but they're unfilled. It's, again, tricks and gimmicks. What do we want to do? We want to hit them where it hurts so that they get riled up and they call their legislator. So we'll eliminate the music program or the sports program or the gifted and talented program. We won't trim the fat. We won't live within our means. We'll inflate the full-time numbers that we're going to have to cut. We won't tell you that half of those people, that there's not even people in half of those positions. What are we going to do? And so this battle is going to continue. They got 700 this year. They're coming back for another 1,100 or 1,200 next year. That's a given at this point because it worked. Because it worked. And they got a bunch of Republicans in the minority to flip. It worked. Now they know. We're going to have to see where this goes. That's all I can say right now. All right, tomorrow, Brad Keithley, Chris Story. Buckle up, Buttercup. It'll be fun. And then on Wednesday, I'm hoping we get a chance to talk to some of our senators. We'll see what happens there. We got to go. The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We will see you tomorrow, my friends. Be kind. Love one another. Live well. Okay. Yeah. Flipping Republicans, that's the problem. Yeah. I mean, what they seen it worked. They'll be back next year. They'll be back next year with more of the same. Yeah. We'll have to see. All right, my friends. We will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for coming in, being patient with us today for this Monday. We'll see you then. Have a great day.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Dukes Show.